You know those beautiful antique maps from like the 15th and 16th centuries?
Oh, yeah, the parchment ones where they draw the little sea monsters in the corners.
Exactly. Yeah, the ones where the coastlines of Europe or Africa are, meticulously drawn, everything is perfectly charted and smooth, and then suddenly the parchment just ends. It drops off into blank
Right,
space.
the map maker just gives up and draws a dragon.
They literally write, "Here be dragons."
Well, it's the edge of the known world. Terrifying. I mean, certainly, but
Uh-oh.
at least it's obvious, right? You have this massive, clear visual warning that you are leaving safety.
Right, a clear line. You know exactly when you've sailed off the edge of the map into dangerous territory. But when you step into the modern world of artificial intelligence in the workplace, that map doesn't have a clean edge anymore.
No, not at all.
We are looking at a landscape that is entirely invisible. You can be cruising along perfectly safe, doing your job, and then you take one step to the left, and suddenly you are just in free fall.
It is the ultimate invisible cliff.
Yeah.
And, because it's invisible, highly intelligent professionals are walking right off it every single day without even realizing it.
Which is wild.
Boy.
So, welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to explore a truly fascinating synthesis of research titled Navigating the Jagged Technological Frontier of AI Integration.
By Dr. Jonathan H. Westover.
Yes, exactly. And we're looking at a collection of landmark field experiments, most notably this massive study from the Boston Consulting Group, to uncover exactly how AI is transforming knowledge work. And, I want to speak directly to you listening right now.
Yeah, because this affects everyone.
Totally.
Yeah.
Whether you are a student writing papers, a manager running a team, or just like a freelancer trying to figure out how to use AI in your daily workflow without losing your professional edge, this deep dive is designed to give you a shortcut to being well-informed. Our goal isn't just to talk about how much faster AI can make you. We are here to uncover the hidden traps that come with that speed.
And we really need to set the baseline context here before we get into the weeds. What we are looking at is not just another, incremental tech update.
Right. It's not just a faster Excel spreadsheet.
Exactly.
Right.
Generative AI, these large language models we are all using now, it's fundamentally restructuring cognitive labor. It is stepping in to do things that, until about 5 minutes ago, were exclusively reserved for highly educated, highly trained humans.
Like what kind of things specifically?
I mean, generating strategic business recommendations, synthesizing dense scientific research, producing highly creative marketing campaigns. This is cognitive territory.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really understand how to use these tools, we first have to understand why the AI learning curve sort of defies all the normal rules of technology.
Right.
So Dr. Westover's research leans heavily on a metaphor originally developed by a team of researchers led by Fabrizio Dell'Acqua, and they call it the jagged technological frontier. Let's establish what makes this frontier so jagged compared to, well, everything we've used before.
Well, think about traditional automation. When companies introduce software to handle accounting or, robotics for manufacturing, the capability curve was smooth and predictable.
Okay.
As the software got better, it progressively handled more complex variations of the exact same task. If a program could do basic arithmetic, you knew it could eventually scale up to calculus. The capability scaled linearly with difficulty. You knew what the machine could do and what it couldn't.
Right. It was a smooth upward slope.
Yeah. But generative AI's frontier behaves completely differently.
Mm.
Its capabilities are incredibly uneven, even within the exact same domain of work.
How so?
You can give an AI two tasks that look identical in terms of human difficulty.
Yeah.
It will perform the first task like an absolute genius and then completely fail the second task like a toddler.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the frontier of what it can do is this jagged, unpredictable line.
And this is where that massive Boston Consulting Group field experiment comes in,
Yeah.
right? Because it perfectly illustrates this jagged line. They took 758 of their own consultants and split them up to test this.
And these are smart people.
Very smart people. And the results inside that frontier, meaning the tasks AI is inherently good at, are staggering. I mean, consultants who used AI for tasks inside the frontier completed 12.2% more tasks, and they do it 25.1% faster.
Which is a massive jump in productivity.
Huge. And the quality of their work was actually rated higher by external blind judges.
It's an absolute superpower when you are inside that boundary. I mean, we see this across multiple industries. Professional writers increasing their output by 37%, customer service reps resolving almost 14% more issues per hour, while actually boosting customer satisfaction.
Which usually drops when you try to speed things up.
Exactly. Inside the frontier, the AI acts as this incredible expanding agent for the solution space. It can generate 5 different analytical frameworks so fast that the human worker can just sit back, curate, and refine the best options.
But then, and this is the scary part, the researchers looked outside the frontier. They took a task that sat just beyond that jagged edge, and the downside is honestly shocking.
Yeah, the failure rate is pretty alarming.
The BCG study had consultants tackle a complex organizational change task. The consultants who used AI were 19% less likely to produce correct solutions compared to the consultants who didn't use AI at all. Let me repeat that for everyone. Using AI made them 19% worse.
What's fascinating here is that the difference between the two tasks wasn't about surface-level difficulty. If you looked at a syllabus, developing a market entry strategy for a footwear company, which the AI aced, looks just as complex as designing an organizational change initiative for a manufacturing firm.
Right. They both just sound like hard corporate homework.
Exactly, which the AI failed at miserably, by the way. But the underlying mechanisms are totally different. AI excels at pattern recognition. A market entry strategy relies on abundant historical data, standard analytical frameworks, and formulas.
Things that have been written about thousands of times on the internet.
Precisely. It's ingested all that.
Yeah.
But organizational change requires deep, contextualized judgment. It requires understanding tacit knowledge like the unwritten rules of a specific company.
Human egos, office politics.
Right. Unstated political constraints, nuanced behavior. Generative AI doesn't have a mental model of the real world. It doesn't know what it feels like to be afraid of a layoff. It only maps statistical relationships between words. So when a task requires lived context, it fails completely.
It makes me think of an analogy. Using AI right now is kind of like hiring a brilliant Ivy League intern who is completely socially oblivious.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. You ask this intern to build a complex, multivariable financial model, and they do it in 3 seconds flawlessly because they memorize the textbook. But then you ask them for advice on how to navigate a delicate office politics situation to get that financial model approved by a stubborn VP.
And it's a disaster.
Total disaster.
Right.
The intern gives you completely tone-deaf, destructive advice because they have never actually sat in a tense boardroom. They have the raw processing power, but zero lived context.
The intern knows the words, but not the music.
That's a great analogy. But think about the person managing that intern. If the tasks look superficially similar in difficulty, if they both just look like, high-level consulting problems, how is a professional supposed to know when they are stepping off the edge of that jagged cliff?
Well, that is the core danger. And because the edge of this frontier is invisible, it creates a massive psychological trap for the user. It leads to a phenomenon known as de-skilling.
Let's break down that 19% failure rate from the BCG study, because the problem wasn't just that the AI gave subtly incorrect answers on the organizational change task.
No, the real crisis was that highly trained, highly paid human consultants completely trusted those bad answers.
Right. The post-experiment interviews were very revealing here. The consultants who used AI spent significantly less time on their own independent analysis. They showed drastically reduced skepticism.
Psychologically, this is known as anchoring bias. They anchored onto the AI's initial confident-sounding output and simply stopped engaging with contradictory information.
Which is so easy to do.
It is. When your brain gets used to the machine being right 99% of the time on the routine pattern matching stuff, it naturally lets its guard down on the complex, nuanced stuff.
And you would think having an AI do your heavy lifting is relaxing. You sit back and watch it type. But the research highlights that reviewing AI output actually creates its own exhausting mental taxation.
It really does.
You have to constantly evaluate, verify, and stay vigilant against your own over-reliance. It's like grading essays all day. It is mentally draining in a totally new way.
And it is creating a profound professional identity crisis. Knowledge workers have spent years, maybe decades, honing their analytical skills. Now, they are watching a chatbot commoditize those foundational skills in seconds. It threatens the core meaning of their career.
Yeah.
But if we zoom out to the organizational level, the biggest structural threat is what the data calls the pipeline paradox.
The pipeline paradox.
Yeah.
Break this down for us, because this feels like the trap that is going to catch a massive amount of companies completely off guard in the next 5 years.
The paradox lies in who benefits the most from AI. Generative AI provides the biggest, most immediate performance boost to your below average or junior workers. It dramatically raises the performance floor.
Right.
A brand new analyst straight out of college can suddenly produce a market report that looks like it was written by a 5-year veteran. But historically, how does a junior worker actually become a senior expert?
Through the grind, deliberate practice, doing the routine, repetitive tasks over and over until it becomes second nature.
Exactly. They build deep, intuitive pattern recognition by doing the foundational work. If you hand a junior employee an AI to skip all that routine practice, they never develop expert-level judgment.
Oh, wow. I see where this is going.
And remember that expert-level judgment is the exact thing you need to catch the AI's subtle contextual mistakes when you are operating outside the jagged frontier.
Yeah.
If you hollow out the training pipeline today, you end up with a future workforce that is completely dependent on AI, but lacks the underlying expertise to know when the AI is hallucinating.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, and I am going to push back on this panic a little bit.
Go for it.
Doesn't every single generation freak out about new technology de-skilling the youth? I mean, when pocket calculators became ubiquitous, teachers insisted it would destroy our ability to do basic math.
Right, the classic calculator argument.
Yeah, and the world didn't end. We survived. So why is this de-skilling with AI any different from relying on a calculator to do long division?
It is the most common comparison people make, but it completely falls apart when you look at how the two technologies actually function under the hood.
Why?
A calculator performs deterministic math. 2 plus 2 is always 4. It operates on fixed, absolute rules. If you rely on a calculator for 10 years and then lose it, the only consequence is that you have to do the long division on paper. You just do the exact same deterministic math, only slower.
But generative AI isn't doing math.
No. Generative AI produces probabilistic judgments. It doesn't actually know anything. It is looking at a massive database of human text and guessing the next most statistically logical word to complete a sentence. It is playing the ultimate game of probability.
Meaning it can sound incredibly confident while delivering a completely fabricated, illogical argument.
Precisely. If you lose your calculator in the AI scenario, meaning if you lose your foundational expert judgment because you've outsourced all your thinking to a probabilistic text generator, you don't just do the work slower. You literally lose the ability to realize that the AI's logic is fundamentally flawed.
Because you never built the intuition for it.
Exactly. We've actually seen this exact type of de-skilling before, but not with calculators. We've seen it in aviation with autopilot systems and in medical diagnosis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when pilots or doctors rely too heavily on automated probabilistic systems, their unaided performance degrades rapidly. Their ability to catch the machine's critical errors vanishes because their own cognitive muscles have atrophied.
Okay, so if the default human setting is to get lazy and trust the machine, and we know that handing an employee a raw AI tool leads to a broken talent pipeline, how do you engineer a workplace that prevents that? We need to look at how leading organizations are actively defending against these failure modes.
Yeah, the research points out several companies redesigning their work to survive this jagged frontier.
Right.
The overarching theme among the top performers is that they are actively mapping their own frontiers. They aren't just buying AI software licenses, handing them out and saying, have at it.
Which I think is what most places are doing.
Unfortunately, yes. But let's look at Deloitte. They use what are called systematic task taxonomies.
Okay, that sounds like heavy corporate jargon. What is a systematic task taxonomy in plain English?
It just means breaking a job down into its atomic parts. They audited their workflows and deconstructed what a consultant actually does hour by hour. They realized that for tasks like market analysis and competitive benchmarking, AI is fantastic. It's standard, pattern-heavy work. But for organizational culture assessments, they intentionally restrict AI usage. They know that assessing a company's culture is a contextual minefield, so they maintain traditional human-driven approaches for those specific atomic tasks.
That makes a lot of sense. And McKinsey took this a step further with workflow redesign, right?
Yes, they did.
They recognize that the AI is a brilliant drafter, but a terrible final judge. So they change the order of operations. The AI does the initial research synthesis and drafts the framework. But then senior consultants who are explicitly prohibited from using AI for this step must review the work.
The reviewers are kept in a clean room of human thought to catch contextual misunderstandings.
Right. For their highest stakes client challenges, McKinsey actually runs parallel work streams. One team uses AI and another team does it the traditional way, and they compare the outputs to find where the AI missed the human nuance.
That parallel structure is brilliant because it forces friction and human judgment back into the loop. But my favorite intervention comes from the legal world with the law firm Reed Smith. Legal work is incredibly high stakes. If an AI hallucinates a fake case citation and a lawyer submits it to a judge, that can end a career.
It has ended careers. We've seen it in the
We
news.
have. So instead of just teaching their lawyers basic prompt engineering, how to ask the AI nicely, they focus heavily on capability building through stress testing.
They actively force their lawyers to practice with flawed, hallucinated AI outputs. They sit them down with bad AI research and make them hunt for the errors to build up their error detection muscles. It reminds me of teaching defensive driving.
Defensive driving, how so?
You don't just put a teenager in a fast car, show them the accelerator, and wish them luck. You take them to a slick, wet track, you intentionally induce a spin out, and you teach them how to steer out of the skid. You are training the muscle memory for the failure state.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to train for the failure mode, not just the success mode.
Yeah.
If your first time encountering an AI hallucination is on a live client project, you've already lost.
So let's translate this for you, the listener. If you are managing a small team, or maybe you're a freelancer managing your own daily workflow, how do you actually use this? You probably don't have a multi-million-dollar R&D budget to map your workflow like Deloitte or McKinsey.
No, you don't need millions of dollars, but you do need intense intention. The research outlines practical strategies anyone can use. One is conducting your own capability mapping.
Okay.
Sit down on a Friday and systematically inventory your weekly tasks. Ask yourself, which of my tasks require deep, unstated context about my clients or my boss? Which tasks are just standard pattern recognition, like formatting data or drafting standard emails?
Right. Figure out where your own jagged edge is.
Exactly. Another technique is red teaming. When you get a new AI tool, don't just try to make it write a good blog post. Actively try to break it.
I love that.
Purposely give it ambiguous, highly contextual scenarios from your past projects and see where it gives terrible advice. You have to deliberately find its limits in your specific job before you trust it with live work.
Okay, so designing these clever workflows and doing red teaming exercises is crucial. But making them stick, especially if you are part of a larger organization, requires a fundamental shift in how money is spent and how core values are defined.
Because the most common catastrophic mistake companies are making right now is falling into the budget trap.
What's a budget trap?
They decide they need an AI strategy, so they spend 100% of their budget on software licenses and cloud computing power, and 0% on process redesign and human training. They buy the hammer, but they don't teach anyone carpentry.
Morgan Stanley is highlighted as the prime example of how to do this right. They deployed an AI assistant specifically designed for their financial advisors. But they spent equally on the AI technology itself and the training, the compliance frameworks, and the continuous monitoring of the advice.
Yeah, that's key.
They didn't view the AI as a way to replace the advisor to save on payroll. They viewed it as a way to augment the advisor so they could handle more clients while keeping the relationship quality premium.
It's about balanced investment, and that philosophy extends to how you invest in your talent's career trajectory over time. Salesforce has a fascinating model for this called adaptive career pathways.
Oh, right, the Salesforce model. They intentionally restrict AI access for their brand new consultants. In their first few months, the juniors have to build their foundational technical skills the hard way. They have to do the grueling, repetitive work manually.
Which I'm sure they love.
Right. But as they get promoted and prove their foundational competence, the AI access gradually unlocks. But, and this is the key mechanism, as the AI takes over their routine technical work, their job description fundamentally shifts. They aren't just doing the same job faster. They are trained heavily on relationship building, complex change management, and quality checking the AI's output. I have to challenge this model, though. Let's look at this from the perspective of a ruthless free market. Isn't it incredibly risky, financially speaking, for Salesforce to intentionally slow down their junior staff by taking away their AI tools, especially when a scrappy competitor might be handing out AI to every junior employee on day one and getting work done 25% faster right out of the gate?
This raises an important question, and it really gets to the heart of the strategic dilemma every business is facing. Yes, in the short term, Salesforce is sacrificing a burst of cheap productivity. It is a highly calculated trade-off.
Okay.
By forcing those juniors to do the hard work, Salesforce is guaranteeing the survival of their long-term expert pipeline. If your entire business model is based on providing high-level, nuanced consulting, Your true competitive moat isn't how fast you can format a spreadsheet.
Right.
Your moat is the exceptional human judgment of your senior staff. If you trade that away for a quick productivity bump today, you won't have any experts 10 years from now. You just have a bunch of prompt engineers who don't actually know how the underlying business works.
It's a long-term survival strategy, and frankly, this applies to the solo listener too. If you're a freelancer, you are your own junior employee and your own senior expert.
Yes, exactly.
If you use AI to skip the hard foundational learning of your craft today, you are eroding your own competitive moat for tomorrow.
Absolutely. You have to protect your own deliberate practice.
This ties perfectly into the final case study, which is the Mayo Clinic. This isn't just about business strategy. This is about institutional reflexivity and pure values alignment. The Mayo Clinic uses AI for clinical documentation, handling the massive paperwork burden that burns doctors out.
Which is a great use case.
It is, but they have established a hard boundary. If an AI tool ever threatens the human connection between the doctor and the patient, it is vetoed, period. It doesn't matter if it promises to make the hospital 30% more efficient. If it erodes the human element of care, they do not deploy it. They put their core values above raw efficiency.
Because they recognize that their reputation, their actual value proposition to the world, is built on patient trust and physician accountability. An algorithm cannot hold liability, and it cannot provide empathy. AI can support the delivery of care, but it can never be allowed to replace the human nexus of that care.
So, bringing this all together for you listening, we've covered a massive amount of ground today. The core takeaway you need to carry into your work tomorrow is this. The AI frontier is jagged. Surface-level complexity is a terrible map.
Yeah, truly terrible.
A task that looks incredibly hard to you might be trivial for an AI, and a task that seems simple might be a contextual minefield that the AI completely fails to navigate.
So true.
To thrive, you cannot just blindly adopt these tools. You need to actively red team your workflows. Test where your AI shines, and more importantly, hunt down where it subtly fails. Treat generative AI like a brilliant, unpredictable collaborator, that socially oblivious intern who knows the textbook but doesn't know the room. Do not treat it as an infallible, omniscient oracle.
And above all else, protect your own deliberate practice. Don't outsource the foundational work that builds your unique expertise, or you risk losing the very judgment that makes you valuable in the first place.
Wow.
You have to master the tool. You must understand its probabilistic nature. But you can never, ever let the tool master your judgment.
Now, to end today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over, something that builds on everything Dr. Westover wrote but takes it a step further into our future.
Let's hear it.
As generative AI continues to democratize and perfect all of our standard analytical frameworks, meaning anyone, anywhere can generate a flawless market analysis or a perfectly structured business plan in a matter of seconds, standard excellence is going to become a very cheap commodity.
All right.
If every company and every freelancer can execute perfect logic instantly, does the true definition of professional value shift entirely? Does your value move away from raw analytical intelligence and data processing? And instead, does it move toward our distinctly human vulnerabilities? Our empathy, our lived, messy experiences, and our willingness to make a controversial, gut-driven judgment call that an AI would be explicitly programmed to avoid. When the map of the known world is fully charted by machines, maybe our real value is our willingness to sail off that jagged cliff into the unknown. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.